You know, for decades, a really dark mystery has haunted the shores of Long Island, New York. We're talking about a string of vanished women, a huge investigation, and a chilling question that just hung in the air for years. Who was the Long Island serial killer? So let's dive into the grim discoveries, the frustrating investigation, and the breakthrough that finally cracked this tragic case.
And that quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the unease this case has created for so long. This isn't just a story about a killer. It's also a story about the incredibly complex and, let's be honest, often flawed investigation that tried to bring them to justice.
So where does a story like this even begin? Well, for this, we've got to go back to December of 2010. Picture this desolate stretch of road called Ocean Parkway. This is where this long-running nightmare first burst into the public eye. It all started with a search for just one missing woman. But what investigators stumbled upon was something so much more horrifying. Out there in that thick coastal brush, they didn't just find one set of human remains. They found four, all packed into a really small area. The search for one person had just uncovered what looked like a serial killer's graveyard.
And it didn't stop at four, not even close. As the search widened over the next few months, the number just kept climbing. In the end, at least 11 sets of human remains were found along that same stretch of coastline. This thing went from a missing persons case to one of the biggest unsolved serial murder investigations in modern American history, just like that.
You know, the location itself tells you so much about the killer, or maybe killers. That remote, isolated part of Ocean Parkway, that wasn't an accident. Investigators pretty quickly figured this area was chosen on purpose. It was a dumping ground for someone who knew the terrain and was banking on their crimes staying hidden forever.
To really understand this case, we have to talk about the victims. As investigators looked closer at who these people were, a really tragic and chilling pattern started to emerge. It connected these women and gave police a profile of exactly who this killer was targeting.
And this right here, this is absolutely crucial to understanding the whole case. Yeah, the women shared physical traits, but the most critical link was their job. By targeting escorts who advertised online, the killer was exploiting the system. It meant their disappearances might not get reported right away, leads would be scarce, it gave the predator a devastating head start.
And then there's this one detail that just illustrates the killer's cold, calculated methods. Some of the remains were found wrapped up in burlap sacks. This wasn't some crime of passion. This was methodical. It pointed to a predator who was organized, careful, and took very specific steps to cover their tracks.
Okay, so you might be wondering, with so many victims and these clear patterns, why did it take so long to make an arrest? Well, the truth is, the investigation was just plagued with major challenges that caused it to completely stall for over a decade.
Just look at this timeline. It really puts the frustration into perspective, right? You have the initial discoveries in late 2010 and into 2011, and then just public silence. A full decade where families were just waiting for answers, and a killer was still out there.
So what went wrong? It was kind of a perfect storm of problems. First, forensic technology was changing so fast that evidence from the early days was hard to analyze with newer techniques. Sources also point to serious communication breakdowns between the different police departments working the case. And eventually, there were even allegations of internal mismanagement that might have let crucial leads just go cold. But then, after a decade of waiting, the cold case suddenly turned red hot. A breakthrough, built on new technology, and a totally renewed push from investigators finally pointed police toward a suspect.
In July of 2023, the news finally broke. Police arrested Rex Heuermann, an architect who lived and worked right there on Long Island, not far from where the bodies were found. He was charged in connection with several of the murders, and it just sent shockwaves through the community. It was the first real hope for justice in over 10 years.
So, how'd they finally do it? Well, the initial investigation, it relied on patterns. The type of victim, the location. The breakthrough, though, that came from modern forensics. We're talking advanced DNA analysis and the super sophisticated tracking of old cell phone records and burner phones. That's what ultimately led police right to Heuermann's door.
You know, this case is so much more than just another true crime story. Its legacy really forces us to look at some difficult truths about how we treat vulnerable people and how our justice system actually works, or sometimes doesn't. So what can we take away from all this? Well, the case is a painful reminder of how predators target people on the margins of society. It's a testament to why police can never give up, and it proves the vital role of advances in forensics. But maybe, most of all, it shows that different agencies have to work together, seamlessly, to solve these incredibly complex crimes.
But even with an arrest, one huge question still lingers. The suspect is charged with several of the murders, but can all 11 victims be linked to just one person? Is it possible that more than one predator was using that same stretch of Long Island shore as their dumping ground? We still don't know for sure.
And that really brings us to the most important thing to remember. This case isn't just some mystery to be solved. Behind every single headline, there is a human being, a victim whose life mattered, and a family that is still searching for answers and for justice.